On a distant planet far beyond Earth's reach, a race of fierce alien warriors known as the Drakari ruled with pride and power. The Drakari were a race of formidable beings, towering over most others with their muscular builds, sharp features, and battle-hardened bodies. Their culture was built around combat, and their warriors were among the most skilled in the galaxy. The Drakari valued strength above all else, believing that only the strongest deserved to lead. Their society was governed by a single law: might makes right. Among them was Zara, a young warrior with exceptional skills. She had trained for years, honing her abilities with blades, hand-to-hand combat, and all forms of battle techniques known to her people. Zara was eager to prove herself, not just as a warrior, but as one of the greatest warriors her world had ever known. To her, combat wasn't just a test of strength, it was a path to honor and glory. She dreamed of the day when she would challenge the best of the best and stand at the pinnacle of Drakari society. The Drakari had long lived in isolation, their home planet far from the reach of most galactic civilizations. They had no interest in the politics of other races and cared little for the wars of the universe beyond their borders. But everything changed when a new starship appeared in the skies above their world. It wasn't like anything Zara had seen before. The ship was sleek, modern, and clearly not of Drakari design. The humans had arrived. For generations, the Drakari had been the most powerful warriors in the galaxy. Their strength was unmatched, their combat skills unparalleled. They had never met an enemy they couldn't defeat. So when Zara heard the news that a ship carrying humans had landed on Drakari soil, she felt both excitement and curiosity. The humans had a reputation as a new and growing force in the galaxy, but they were still unknown to most. Zara's pride swelled. She was eager to test her skills against these newcomers, to show them that no one could defeat a Drakari in combat. The elders of Zara's clan gathered to discuss the matter, and Zara was there, standing tall and proud. "We should meet them in combat," she suggested. "We should show these humans that they have no place on our world. We'll teach them what it means to face a true warrior." Her words were met with murmurs of agreement, but the elders were wise. They knew that the Drakari had not encountered outsiders in many years, and they were cautious. However, Zara's voice was persuasive, and her reputation as a skilled fighter made her argument even stronger. After some discussion, they agreed. Zara would be the one to challenge the humans to combat. Zara was excited. The opportunity to prove her strength, her abilities, and her place among the Drakari's greatest warriors had finally arrived. She could already see the respect in the eyes of her people as she prepared to face the humans. She imagined their faces when she defeated them, how they would bow to her strength, and how her name would be remembered for generations. The day of the challenge arrived. Zara stood in the heart of the Drakari arena, a place where the greatest battles had taken place for centuries. It was a massive structure, carved from the very bones of the planet itself. The ground was hard, the air thick with the anticipation of the crowd, and the sky above darkened as the humans' ship descended. Zara's heart raced as she gripped her weapon, a long, gleaming blade forged from the strongest materials in the galaxy. She was ready. The ship landed and the humans emerged. There were only a handful of them, and they didn't appear to be warriors. Zara noticed their attire, simple clothing, far less impressive than the armor the Drakari wore. But there was something in their eyes. A quiet confidence, a calm that only a true fighter would possess. Zara's pride flared. These humans might not look like much, but she was going to show them what it meant to face a Drakari warrior. The human leader, a man named Captain Jason Hawk, stepped forward. He was not tall like the Drakari, and he didn't carry any weapons, which made Zara laugh to herself. Was this all the humans had to offer? She could already imagine how easily she would defeat him. "I accept your challenge," Captain Hawk said, his voice steady and calm. "But I must make one thing clear. We will not fight with your weapons or in your traditional way. We fight in a different way, a way that has proven to be far more effective in our world." Zara tilted her head, intrigued. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice laced with skepticism. "We will fight using our minds, our strategies. Our strength lies not in brute force, but in our ability to outthink our opponents," Hawk replied, his tone unwavering. Zara laughed, the sound echoing through the arena. "You would challenge a Drakari warrior using your minds? You truly are foolish, human. You have no idea what you're dealing with." Hawk's expression didn't change. "We will see," he said simply. Zara stepped forward, her blade gleaming in the sunlight. She raised it high, ready to strike. The humans watched her with calm eyes, as if unafraid of her strength. This only fueled her anger, but she knew she had to be patient. The challenge was only just beginning. As she charged toward them, the humans moved with a surprising precision. They didn't try to meet her head-on, as she expected. Instead, they scattered, moving quickly and in perfect sync. Zara's eyes narrowed as she tried to track their movements. She was fast and her senses were sharp, but the humans were unpredictable. One of the humans, a woman named Lieutenant Sarah Hayes, activated a device she had concealed in her clothing. Zara didn't see it at first, but the ground beneath her feet suddenly shifted. A sharp electric shock ran up through her legs, making her stumble. The shock wasn't enough to defeat her, but it threw off her concentration. "Did you think it would be that easy?" Hawk called out, his voice filled with amusement. Zara growled, shaking off the effects of the shock. She charged again, this time focusing her mind on the woman who had attacked her. She swung her blade with all her strength, but the woman sidestepped, moving faster than Zara had expected. Zara's frustration grew. These humans weren't fighting like any enemy she had ever faced. They didn't rely on strength, but on cleverness, on using the environment around them. Zara had always believed that combat was won by sheer power, but these humans were showing her a different way of thinking. A way that seemed to outmaneuver her at every turn. As the battle raged on, Zara realized something: she wasn't winning. The humans were not trying to defeat her with brute force. They were wearing her down, tiring her out mentally and physically. And she could feel her pride starting to crack. For the first time, Zara felt something she had never experienced before: doubt. Could it be that these humans had a strength she had never understood? Zara stood in the middle of the arena, her chest rising and falling as she tried to catch her breath. She had never felt exhaustion like this before. The humans had thrown her completely off balance. Their approach to combat was unlike anything she had ever encountered. Zara, who had always relied on her physical strength and speed, now found herself struggling against an enemy who fought with their minds and tactics, not with force, and it frustrated her beyond belief. Her eyes scanned the arena, focusing on the humans who had scattered. They were moving with purpose, and Zara could see that they were all equipped with some kind of device. The woman who had shocked her earlier, Lieutenant Sarah Hayes, was standing near the edge of the arena, adjusting something on her wrist. It looked like some sort of communication device. Zara couldn't be sure, but she knew the humans were not only using physical gadgets. They were working as a team, and that was something Zara had underestimated. Zara clenched her fists, feeling the weight of her own pride pressing down on her. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was a Drakari warrior. She was trained to be the strongest, the fastest, and the best. Yet these humans were making her look foolish. She wasn't sure what bothered her more: the fact that they were outsmarting her, or the realization that she was being outmatched by something she couldn't control: strategy and intellect. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She couldn't lose. She wouldn't. Not like this. With a swift motion, Zara launched herself forward again, her blade raised high. She wasn't going to fall for their tricks anymore. She would fight harder, faster, and smarter. She would show them what a Drakari warrior was capable of. But as she closed in on one of the humans, she suddenly felt the ground beneath her shift again. Before she could react, a net shot up from the ground, entangling her legs and bringing her crashing to the floor. The crowd gasped. Zara struggled against the net, but it was designed to hold. It wasn't just a simple trap, it was engineered to keep her down. She pulled with all her might, but the more she fought, the tighter the net seemed to become. This time, it wasn't just physical strength that failed her. She was beginning to realize that these humans weren't just clever, they were prepared. They had planned every step of this battle. They knew exactly how to use her power against her. She could hear the humans laughing quietly to themselves, but it wasn't the kind of laughter that came from mockery. It was the kind of laughter that came from understanding. They were not afraid of her. They were not impressed by her strength. They were more interested in the way she moved, the way she thought. Zara's frustration turned to confusion. She had always thought that strength was the key to victory, that if she was powerful enough, no one could defeat her. But now she wasn't sure what to believe anymore. Every time she tried to gain control, the humans found a way to turn the tables. One of the humans, a man with short black hair and a calm demeanor, approached her slowly. Zara stopped struggling for a moment, watching him with narrowed eyes. He wasn't carrying any weapons, but there was something in his expression that told her he wasn't just a passive observer. "Are you done?" he asked quietly. Zara gritted her teeth, unwilling to answer. She wasn't about to admit defeat to these people. She wasn't going to let them think they had won. "We're not trying to defeat you with brute force," the man continued. "We're showing you a different way, a way that doesn't require raw power." Zara growled low in her throat. "I don't need your pity," she spat. The man didn't respond to her words. Instead, he simply gestured to his team. They were watching from the edges of the arena, waiting for her next move. Zara pulled at the net again, but this time she forced herself to stop. She needed to think. She needed to understand what was happening. It wasn't just about fighting harder. It was about fighting smarter. The humans weren't playing by her rules, but perhaps that was the problem. She had always assumed combat was a simple matter of physical strength, but it was clear now that these humans were fighting on a different level altogether. She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to center herself. She thought back to the stories of legendary warriors. She had always admired their strength, their courage. But now she realized that those stories had missed something important. The greatest warriors weren't just strong, they were wise. They understood when to strike and when to retreat. They knew how to outthink their enemies. Zara opened her eyes and looked at the man who had spoken. He was still waiting, his expression calm and patient. It was then that Zara realized that this wasn't a test of strength at all. It was a test of her pride. The humans weren't here to challenge her body. They were here to challenge her mind, and so far they were winning. With a deep breath, Zara finally relaxed her grip on the net. She let the tension drain from her body, and in that moment something shifted inside her. Maybe this wasn't the kind of combat she had always dreamed of. Maybe this was something else entirely. And maybe, just maybe, this was something she could learn from. She nodded slowly to the man, signaling that she was ready to continue. "You want to fight with your minds, don't you?" Zara asked, her voice steadier now. "Then show me how it's done." The man smiled, a small but genuine smile, as if he had been waiting for her to understand. "We're not here to defeat you, Zara. We're here to show you that there's more than one way to fight, and more than one way to win." Zara stood tall, the net now forgotten at her feet. Her pride still burned inside her, but it was no longer blinding. She was a warrior, but she was also a student. And in this fight, she wasn't just facing humans. She was facing herself, her own misconceptions, and her own limitations. For the first time, Zara felt a sense of humility. It was a strange feeling, one she wasn't used to, but it wasn't a bad feeling. It was a feeling of growth. She didn't know how this battle would end, but she knew one thing for sure: she wasn't going to give up. Not yet. Not when she had finally started to understand the true meaning of strength. The humans moved again, their movements precise and coordinated. This time, Zara didn't rush in blindly. She watched them, studying their patterns, trying to see past the tricks and distractions. They weren't just trying to defeat her, they were trying to teach her. And she was learning. Zara stood in the center of the arena, no longer focusing on the humans around her as enemies. Instead, she was starting to view them as something else: teachers. The shock of the last few moments still lingered in her mind. For the first time in her life, she was being tested not just by strength, but by her ability to think and adapt. Zara, a proud Drakari warrior, had always believed that the only way to victory was through sheer force. But now she was beginning to see that there was more to fighting than she had ever imagined. She glanced around the arena, watching the humans move with calm precision. They weren't rushing in like warriors seeking battle. Instead, they were planning, positioning themselves, and using the environment to their advantage. Zara had never considered the environment as part of the fight. It was always just the opponent. But now, as she observed, she realized how much it played into the humans' strategies. Every piece of the arena, every tool they used was part of their plan. They weren't just reacting to her attacks, they were controlling the flow of the fight. The human man who had spoken earlier, Captain Hawk, walked toward her with a slow, deliberate step. He didn't look like much. He was shorter than most Drakari warriors, and his clothes were simple, made for comfort, not battle. But there was something in his eyes, a calm confidence that Zara couldn't ignore. He wasn't worried about her strength. He wasn't afraid. He was just waiting. "You're beginning to understand," he said quietly as he stopped a few feet away from her. His tone wasn't mocking or condescending. It was just patient. Zara didn't respond at first. She simply stood there, processing his words. She had always prided herself on her speed, her strength, and her skill in battle. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that this fight wasn't about her physical abilities at all. The humans had been leading her into a trap from the very beginning. They were trying to show her a different way to fight, a way that didn't rely on strength alone. "I've never fought like this before," Zara admitted, her voice steady but reflective. "I've always relied on my speed and power, but now I don't know what to think." Hawk nodded as if he had expected this. "Strength is only one part of the equation, Zara, but intelligence, strategy, and adaptability, those are what win the fight in the end." Zara looked down at her blade, still gripped firmly in her hand. It was an incredible weapon, designed for cutting through even the toughest armor, yet it had done little to help her in this battle. She had underestimated the humans, thinking they would rely on brute strength like most races. But they didn't fight like anyone she had faced before. She raised her head and met Hawk's gaze, no longer filled with the same anger she had felt before. Now it was curiosity. "So how do we finish this?" she asked. "How do I fight you?" Hawk smiled, but it wasn't a triumphant smile. It was the smile of someone who understood. "It's not about fighting me," he replied. "It's about understanding that there are many ways to win a battle, Zara. You don't have to defeat me with your blade. You just have to learn how to think beyond it." Zara felt a shift inside her. It was as though a door had opened in her mind, and for the first time, she was seeing the battlefield in a new light. The humans weren't trying to break her spirit or crush her pride. They were challenging her to think, to evolve, to become more than just a warrior. They were offering her the chance to become a true fighter, not just one who relied on strength, but one who used her mind as well. Before she could respond, the humans began to move again. But this time, Zara didn't rush forward. She didn't charge blindly like before. Instead, she watched carefully, studying their movements, noting every subtle shift in their positions. They were still using their gadgets, still employing their strategies, but Zara was no longer confused. She could see what they were doing. She could understand their patterns. It wasn't about fighting back with force. It was about countering their every move with precision. The humans didn't seem surprised by her newfound focus. In fact, they seemed pleased. They were waiting for her to catch up, waiting for her to see that the fight wasn't just about strength. It was about how you used the tools available to you, how you could adapt to the situation and find a way to turn the odds in your favor. Zara stepped forward, moving with purpose this time, not just running at them like before. She kept her eyes on her surroundings, aware of the traps they had set, the hidden devices and distractions they had used against her. She wasn't going to let them control the fight this time. She was in control now. Her movements were slower, more deliberate, and it made all the difference. As Zara moved, she realized something important. The humans had no intention of defeating her. They were showing her a path, and it was up to her to decide whether to follow it. They weren't trying to humiliate her. They were giving her the opportunity to grow, to become better, to learn from her mistakes. Zara engaged with the humans again, this time with a different mindset. She didn't strike with the same force as before. Instead, she focused on timing, positioning, and using the environment. As she advanced, she used her surroundings to her advantage, setting her own traps and using her agility to outmaneuver them. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen all at once, but with each move, Zara felt herself getting closer to understanding the humans' way of combat. The humans were still using their gadgets, still trying to outsmart her, but Zara had started to understand their rhythm. She began to counter their moves with calculated precision, slowly gaining the upper hand. She wasn't winning the fight with brute strength. She was winning with strategy, adapting to their methods, and using her own abilities in new ways. And with each passing moment, Zara realized that this wasn't just a fight for victory. It was a fight for respect. The humans weren't here to destroy her or her people. They were here to show her a different way to fight, a way that didn't rely on the power of the body, but on the power of the mind. And slowly, Zara came to understand that the greatest warriors weren't the ones who were the strongest. They were the ones who could adapt, who could learn, and who could evolve with every challenge they faced. By the end of the battle, Zara wasn't standing in the same place she had been before. She was no longer just a warrior who relied on her strength. She was a warrior who had learned something new. And for the first time in her life, Zara felt that she had truly earned the respect of the humans. They had shown her what it meant to fight with honor, with intellect, and with adaptability. And in doing so, they had made her a better fighter. The battle was over, but Zara knew that her journey was just beginning. She had learned the most important lesson of all, that strength was just one part of the equation. The true test of a warrior was whether they could adapt, grow, and learn from every challenge they faced. The final moments of the challenge were unlike anything Zara had ever experienced. As the battle had progressed, she had slowly come to understand the humans' strategy, their thinking, their approach to combat. She had learned to appreciate their method of using the mind as much as the body. And for the first time in her life, she had begun to question the very foundation of what it meant to be a warrior. Zara stood there now, breathing heavily, her muscles sore from the constant movement, but her mind was clearer than ever. She had faced challenges she could not overcome by force alone, but with each step, each maneuver, she had found new ways to counter the humans' tricks. She had learned that there was power in patience, in thoughtfulness, and in understanding an opponent's moves before acting. This was a new form of strength, one that she had never considered before. Captain Hawk stood across from her, his posture relaxed but alert, his expression one of quiet respect. Zara could tell that the battle had taken a different turn for him, too. The humans had come to this challenge expecting to show her the value of intellect, but now they could see that she had grown, that she was no longer the same warrior they had faced at the beginning. She was something more now. She was a fighter not just by strength, but by wisdom. The silence between them was thick, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Zara could feel the weight of everything that had happened in those silent moments. She had never truly understood the power of her own mind before. The Drakari had always valued strength, courage, and physical prowess. Zara had lived her life believing that these were the only qualities that mattered. But now she realized how much she had missed, how much more there was to learn. The true strength of a warrior wasn't just in their muscle. It was in their ability to think, adapt, and change. Zara slowly lowered her blade, the once gleaming weapon now an extension of the lesson she had learned. She looked at Captain Hawk, the man who had shown her that there was more to life than just the battle in front of her. There was a way of thinking, a way of being that went beyond the physical, and for the first time she could see that this was the true way of strength. This was the true way to victory. "You've taught me something," Zara said, her voice steady but filled with newfound respect. "I came here thinking that only strength could win a fight, but now I see that you were right. Strength is only one part. It's the mind that truly controls the battle." Hawk smiled at her, the kind of smile that wasn't boastful but understanding. "It's not about winning the battle, Zara. It's about understanding the fight, understanding yourself and your opponent. The fight isn't just in front of you, it's also within you." Zara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. She had come to this fight as a warrior, a Drakari who had always believed in the power of strength and combat. But now she was leaving as something different. She had been humbled, but not in a way that crushed her spirit. Instead, it had sparked something within her, something that had been dormant for too long. She had learned that there were many ways to fight, and the best way was not always the one she had relied on for so long. "Will you fight with us?" Captain Hawk asked, his voice gentle but earnest. Zara's gaze shifted to the other humans who had been part of the battle. They were standing back now, watching her not as adversaries but as allies. They weren't just asking her to join them because of her strength. They were asking her because they respected her for what she had become. Zara looked at her blade one last time, and then she turned her gaze back to the humans. "Yes," she said simply, "I will fight with you. But not as a warrior who only uses strength. I will fight with you as one who understands now. I will fight with you as someone who knows there is more to battle than just power." The humans nodded, and for the first time since the challenge had begun, Zara felt a sense of belonging. She had been a Drakari warrior, but now she was something more. She was a fighter, not only in the physical sense, but in the mental, strategic way she had come to understand the true nature of combat. Together, they walked toward the horizon, the sun beginning to dip below the edge of the world. The arena, once a place of pride and strength, was now a symbol of something much greater. It was a symbol of learning, of growth, and of change. Zara had faced her greatest challenge, but it had not been the battle she had expected. It had not been about strength or physical prowess. It had been about opening her mind, letting go of her pride, and realizing that there was always room to grow. It had been about seeing that the true power of a warrior wasn't in their muscles. It was in their heart, their mind, and their ability to adapt to the world around them. As they walked away from the arena, Zara felt a deep sense of peace settle within her. The battle had ended, but the real journey was just beginning. She wasn't just a warrior anymore. She was something new, something stronger. And she was ready to face whatever came next, not with her blade alone, but with the strength of her mind and the wisdom she had gained. The humans had shown her the way, and now it was her turn to show them that she was ready. Ready to fight not just with strength, but with everything she had learned. Ready to be the warrior she was always meant to be.